What was saying on the top, anyways? I got my Tom Aspinall shirt on.
Very nice, very nice.
Uh, so how's your camp been going, anyways?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Kind of a bit of a weird one because it got pushed because the fight was originally meant to be the last weekend of April. Um, and then it got pushed to 10th and 11th of May. I think they just weren't expecting because obviously California is one of the sort of stricter commissions. They've basically started with the two strictest commissions. And so now it's the 20th, well, I'm 25th of May, but they've also got 24th as well. So I think they were just kind of because they're a new show, new promoter. Um, so I think it's just a bit of an unexpected spoke in the works. But yeah, so it's just like I had to kind of pull back a little bit. Everyone thinks like a longer camp is always better, but it just gives more time to get injured. And it's, like at the point in my career now, I normally aim for about 6 weeks sparring, like proper sparring. So sort of pulled it back a little bit, so as not to get too fit and in shape.
How,
I am a heavyweight.
how far
Yeah.
out, Stuart? How far out from fight night will you stop sparring?
Probably about a week. Like we spar on a Tuesday, so I won't obviously spar fight week, but I'll spar the week before. So it's probably about 11, 12 days out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I might do a little tech spar, but it'll be like very controlled with people I trust. It's not like,
Yeah, very light, very light. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So before we talk about you, anyways, Mario Pinto had a big win in Las Vegas not too long ago. What did you make of his performance?
yeah, huge win. Really, really amazing debut. Obviously, like a lot of people, it was kind of on a bit of a quieter card, and he was one of the highlights. So yeah, so it was a good, really good finish. Not his best day at the office, but like he kind of I think we've discussed it over and over analyzed it, but it's like essentially he had a bit of the jitters in the first round. If you look at the numbers, it's really weird because at one point in the first round, I think he'd thrown 6 strikes, landed 6 strikes, rocked the guy hard. And we just sort of, just wasn't really himself, wasn't jabbing, wasn't getting his kicks going. Just, a bit of the jitters, needed screaming out a little bit in the corner, bit of coaxing, bit of screaming in the corner. Yeah, and then just went out and just banged the guy out basically. So it was all right, like we shook the cobwebs off. Um, kind of got that nerves of the sort of first one out there, and yeah, so it was good overall.
If I
Not a
can
big fan.
just, if I can just touch on that, Stuart, you mentioned there, obviously the corner work after the first round. Just talk me through it a little bit. What was going on in your head there? Because obviously you've sort of give it to Mario a bit stern, haven't you? A bit stern.
Yeah, most people didn't see what they cut out.
Go on, tell us.
It got nasty. um, yeah, I could just see like the moment was just getting to him a little bit. And he's normally like, lots of fighters get nervous. He does get nervous, but that's normal. But he's always been very good at channeling those nerves, like being active, being busy. And I could just see like the start of the first round, he looked good. He was, flicking the jab out there, getting his feints going, landing some stuff, had some good success. And then at some point he just started shelling a little bit and like he wasn't really taking much damage, but when you've got like that Austin Lane's is a big old monster and letting that guy
Yeah,
swing at you like a maniac,
yeah.
is not a great idea.
Yeah.
Um, so it was more a case of like just like what on earth are you doing? Like you didn't miss him and then you just stopped trying. Um, so yeah, yeah, like I coaxed him into it gently in the mitt at first, then a bit of sternness, and then when they cut away, I think is actually the best moment because
What?
I leant in and I gently whispered. I said, "Bro, right now you're being a pussy. Go and fight like a man." um, yeah, and he just needed a bit of a kick up the arse. Like Mario's a very technical heavyweight, and I think he just like just overthinking it a little bit. And the second round, not exactly what we wanted in terms of game plan. We wanted to pick the guy apart. And but he came storming out there and showed his power, which is he has in abundance. So all's well ends well, and it's just a case of kind of chalk it up to experience, make the adjustments for next time, and yeah, move on.
Is that something, Stuart, that you find a lot of corners nowadays, they're sort of lacking that, tell the fighter how it is. A lot of the times nowadays you'll see in the UFC and they'll sort of beat around the bush a bit. Do you think, what's your thoughts on that?
For me, that's the first time I've certainly with Maris, the first time I've really screamed at him, really given, told him off. And I think that's why it hit home a little bit with him. Because I think some coaches some people are there as cheerleaders, they're there as motivational speakers, which I think is a waste of time. Your fighters need information, but also you can't just be a robot. You've got to understand who's in front of you. And me and Mario work, we are, under each other's feet, every single day of the week. Minimum one session a day, and often 2 sessions a day. And then we're hanging out after. We're friends as well. We're training partners before I was coaching him officially. I was sort of more of a mentor role before. So it's like I have a pretty good understanding of him and how he operates. So it's like, it's not just that side, it's understanding your fighter. And I think a lot of guys at a lot of gyms, if you have 50 fighters on the mat, it's hard to have the same level of understanding about all of them. Which is obvious. And if you've only, if a guy comes in for a camp, if you're maybe a coach at ATT and a guy comes to you for a camp and is paying you for coaching, like experience and pads and stuff, you're not going to know what, makes them tick and when to shout and when to be nice, sort of thing. So I think it is a bit more like having, being a slightly smaller team, I do have that advantage over some of those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I don't know. Like at the end of the day, people are gassing me up a lot and saying how wonderful I am. I've had a lot of people, how amazing. Blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like you see lots of coaches giving their fighters the right information, and fighters not responding. I think the thing I did well is just understanding where his head was at. But when it really comes down to it, he's the guy who went back out there and threw the punches. From a fighter's perspective, like it's a lot easier to coach than it is to fight. It really is.
Yeah.
Just shout at them to do stuff. And if they do it, you look great. And if they don't, it's their fault,
Yeah.
But sometimes I kind of think the same, like with Eric Nixick and Sean Strickland.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, obviously they have a good relationship, but at the end of the day, Eric Nixick was asking Sean to do something he doesn't do. We know how Sean fights. And it's not even a criticism. It's not even a criticism of Nixick. It's maybe just like, but it's a difficult situation when you're trying to get a guy who maybe does have the tools to win, but that's not his game. It's difficult because even when you see him in the corner, Sean does not listen in the corner. He's staring. He's too busy staring daggers at people and stomping up and down. So it's difficult, and I think I'm very lucky at having guys I work so closely with. So yeah.
Yeah. So how soon do you think that we'll see Mario Pinto come back?
I'm not really sure yet. We did get offered something that we weren't really interested in. It was kind of like a little bit of running before we can walk. We want to build our way up the division. I think he's the second youngest heavyweight currently under contract.
How old is Mario Stewart? He's 27, is he? 28?
He's just turned 27 like last week.
Yeah.
So he's the second youngest heavyweight on under contract. So it's like we're not in a rush, like right now. You look at, like if he blasted out 3 people in a row and they rush us to the top 10, and he catches another couple of people, all of a sudden we're in title contention with the big boys.
Yeah.
And like if you look at someone like, you take the best heavyweight in the world right now, Tom Aspinall, at the end of the day, he looked good early on, but you've seen him have fights where he's not looked at, something like his fight with Andre Arlovski. There were some problems there, but then you've seen him go away and come back even better. It seems like most heavyweights seem to peak in their 30s, early to even mid-late 30s. So, we're in no mad rush to get there right now. Time is on our side, not theirs. All these guys are going to be getting older, and we will be moving towards our peak rather than away from it.
Yeah, so you're fighting Alan Belcher, who just appears to be everywhere. Like I've seen him in the bare knuckle, then Misfits, then the bare knuckle MMA, and now he's in the GFL. What did you make of his last two fights in the bare knuckle MMA?
I thought they were interesting. It's kind of hard to say. Like, he didn't look bad against JDS. He looked all right. But to me, like I personally feel he's undersized. He might have gained weight, and I think the level of competition in the bare knuckle, maybe in certain divisions, is high, but certainly in the heavyweight, the guys he's fought have not been the standard. And when then he goes in competing against a good sized heavyweight like JDS, he kind of just looked like he fatigued. He had success, but even as he was having success, he seemed to sort of slowly fall apart. And I think some of it was just like, making up for normal size and muscle. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He's a tough opponent. He's been in there with some serious customers, and he's always acquitted himself well. He's very, I can't really think of any times off the top of my head where he's looked like a fool. He's not that guy. He's very solid. He's had some really cool signature wins. But yeah, I think that's why it's an exciting fight. He's been doing some weird stuff recently, loads of bare knuckle this, bare knuckle that. So I don't know. I'm a little bit frightened. I'm a little bit prettier than him. My skin is unblemished and wonderful, and it does frighten me looking these nasty old Americans.
Yeah.
How do you think he fares with you on the ground, Stuart?
Well, the thing is, like, I don't see him taking me down. And if he's on his back, he's got no chance. Like, nobody's ever given me any problems on the ground. I've never had an issue. Like, I've been grappling literally. It's mad. I've been grappling since I was 4 years old. I started judo when I was 4, and I'm 36. I've got 32 years of grappling now, because I'm ancient. Sorry, and so like the gym I'm at now, Fight Zone London. Well, I've been here for a while, and the grappling there, the pure jiu-jitsu is amazing, and has been some of the best in Europe. Got multiple homegrown world champions, and my team around me is just very solid. The wrestling is very good there with Josh, so I'm just very, very confident in the grappling. So honestly, I don't see anyone on their back giving me a problem.
Yeah.
No matter how good they are, like, really, in the world. I just don't see it. Like, I'm not saying they couldn't do something, but I think I've never had problems before. I've fought good guys before, and I've acquitted myself well. He is very legit though, so we'll see. That's part of the fun. We know I'm going to throw him on his back at some point, and then it's going to be poundy, smashy, smash, and we'll see what he's got to answer that.
Yeah. So say you get through Alan, do you know who the potential opponents are after, with the way it's set up?
I honestly, it is a little bit chaotic. I'm not even sure what team we're competing against next, but I'm kind of like, it's been narrowed down because of the regular fights. So basically, the guys who are fighting in the first event, it's probably going to be one of them, because the second event's going to be about a month after, then the third event's going to be about a month after. So it's probably a bit much to kind of rattle them off. I cannot, off the top of my head, I believe Todd Duffy and Rebelis de Spagna are fighting. And I can't remember who the other pairing is, which is really bad of me. I really can't remember. Anyway, they're out of my mind. Actually, I'll tell you why. It's because Verdun was meant to be fighting somebody, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's retired now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's now retired. So like, there's a kind of open spot there. So right now it might be either a Rebelis or a Todd Duffy, but you never know. Like, obviously Verdun retired, Frank Mir retired. They're dropping like flies at the moment. So I don't know who's going to be in. So we'll kind of like just sort of wait and see. Like, I wouldn't mind fighting Rebelis or
Yeah,
Duffy. They'd be fun fights.
I think that
was the biggest hype jobs ever.
Yeah,
I bet you'd love to fight Rebelis.
I don't know what you're talking about. Honestly, I think Rebellis, I think I'm such a horrible matchup. I'm going to run across, dive at his legs. I would be comfortable pulling guard on Rebellis. Hesitate to say. That said, I'm sure there's been a few other guys who thought, I'll just run across and take him down. And it's like been knocked into the shadow realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's certainly a scary looking dude. It'd be a cool picture.
Get the
But yeah,
Muhammad
no,
Ali
I
one.
think I can get him down. Yeah, exactly. I think I can get that big bastard down and then smashy.
Yeah. There's a lot of ex-top UFC champions and contenders in the GFL. What do you think of the caliber of the heavyweights that they've signed?
Obviously, like it's kind of split down the middle. There's a bunch of guys like sort of like me, decent, still fairly relevant guys who are like very solid, like my teammate Tanner Boza. Like there is a good group. There's Bruno Capelloza. There is oh, my mind's blanking. Well, like Duffy and Rebellis. But then there's kind of there is a strong group of old silverbacks. But I think the thing is, it's like people were really talking a lot of shit and a lot of BS about it, but like they're matching the old guys with the old guys, they're matching the young guys with the young guys, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That is how it should be done. And it makes it fun, like there's a reason why, when they released the events, I think a lot of people were actually really positive when they saw the matchmaking. Because it's not just going to be me, knocking some, nearly 50-year-old former UFC champion's head into the front row, which, although for me would be quite fun, it's, it is a bit weird, I don't even know if I'd like that. If I go out there against someone who I know is nearly 50 years old, I'm not sure that I could really go to try and hurt them. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not that kind of psychopath, unfortunately.
Like Jake Paul.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Even with Jake Paul, he didn't try to really hurt Tyson.
Yeah, he let it go to a decision. Didn't drop
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
You could tell like he could have like really hurt him, and he just held back.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to go out there and not do that, because those big guys, they can still. I guarantee you, they won't have any qualms about taking my head off.
Yeah.
No.
Or, I know he's probably out, but Frank Mir. Imagine I'm being nice to Frank Mir and he grabs my leg, and he's going to break it. Like, he's still capable of grabbing hold of something. 50-year-old guys are capable of breaking limbs still. Everyone's grappling with those nasty old guys who are monsters still. But yeah, no, like I'm still willing. I'm willing to fight any of the guys in there. I'll do what I have to. Maybe I will find that cold heartless side of me. Maybe I'll get a brutal finish that people will talk about as I.
Stuart, can you give us the sort of the UK fans? Can you give us an idea of GFL London? Is it going to happen, or you just got no clue at this point?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the plan is to do one in every city. I've like the rumors of venues have all been super cool, basically all fun venues. I don't know if it's nailed down yet, but like they're definitely doing London. London is going to be the third show, so actually the second show I'm doing. So yeah, I don't even have a date yet for it. But I think it should be like like if you look at the shows now, you can get a sort of taste of what they're going to
get an idea. But as UK fans, we can definitely expect GFL.
Yeah, it's going to be name heavy. They're wanting to sell tickets. They want people to go. So they're going to load the card with names. I'm really hoping to get like a good name for that. Someone who's legit. Who I could be a marquee for.
Yeah, have you been training with anyone else on Team London at all, or is it like a group chat or anything? Is there like any sense of team spirit among you guys?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, we've got well, not really trained together. Because obviously, like I am the only Londoner, the lone warrior. Yeah. No, it's good. We've got a little group chat, people to chat amongst themselves. I think like when Benson Henderson gets 4 notifications from me, he's freaking this idiot. But yeah, no, it's quite cool. There's a few cool people in there. Obviously, Gig Abel Sassi's in there. To be honest, there's a bunch of cool people. who I'm in a little bit of a group chat with. So that's fun. But yeah, it's more like kind of like getting information from Luke Barnett. It's kind of like, it's funny. He's actively managing the team. He's not just a sort of passive role. They're helping us. And then, yeah, there is a bit of a team feel about it, if I'm being honest. I wasn't sure myself. I wasn't sure if it's just going to be, you're right, mate, and then, just wander off. But it seems to be a bit of a vibe. They've yet, see, I was shocked at this. I thought after London, they'd immediately give me a captaincy role and I would be the leader, But, yeah, not yet. So it's going to be me or Benson or Gegard. It's got to be one of us, But
well, you think surely it's got to be the Londoner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, maybe.
Yeah. So headlining the card as well, you have this bizarre matchup between Tony Ferguson and Dillon Danis. It's bizarre. How do you think it plays out?
Bizarre. I honestly have no idea. You know what? The only kind of Tony could still kick and punch. And he actually gave Paddy a somewhat competitive fight. And then Paddy has still looked good in other fights. So I'm kind of in a way, I don't really know. When you think Tony is, he is long in the tooth now. But I don't know how good Dillon Danis ever was.
Yeah.
So I think bizarre is the thing, and I love it. Honestly, I'm not BSing you. I'm like, it's a little bit of pride to come back, isn't it? It's a little bit of like, let's have a weird matchup. That's fun. Yeah, I'm so into it. I was definitely a Pride fan on this one. I bought it.
Yeah. So which fight outside of your own are you most excited for?
I'm quite looking forward to seeing Rebellis and Todd Duffy, I won't lie, two absolute Goliaths of men. And you kind of imagine it's going to be under 3 minutes, not even 5.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I also think, the rematch between Benson, Henderson, and Anthony Pettis, I think will be a fun one. Because again, they're kind of like, they're older, but even in their old age, they've had fun fights, both of them. Like, they're both gonna do some fun stuff. It'll proper MMA as well. You see some striking, some grappling, some a bit of everything. But yeah, I don't know. There are actually, I think that's part of the thing where it's turned people around. There are a bunch of legit matchups. Yeah.
Yeah. So which opponent matchup for yourself would you say entices you the most in the GFL?
Well, my original pick, because we're fighting is it New York? Oh my god, I've forgotten the name. Anyway, my original pick, I wanted to fight Alexionik because he's 145 years old. And the best days are behind him. I thought that seemed like a good matchup.
You just said you didn't want to fight the old ones.
I know, but maybe I am a secretly evil person.
Stuart, you had an easy answer there. Rebellis just man, yeah, you had
an... He's way too much. He's under 40. What are we talking about?
All right, I've got a curveball for you as well. Mohammed Hijab, the YouTuber.
Yes.
You coached him into a win. How did that come about?
I've kind of known him for quite a while. Like, he was still fairly well known when he first come down. When I was at the gym at Titan, but not nowhere near what he is now. But I've always kind of stayed in touch with him, and he's a big guy. He's always kind of he's been coming to the gym for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. I get on well with him. He's a bit of a controversial character. But I think like it's the internet, isn't it? Like people say things, and do things for a lot of clicks and views. I don't know. I kind of judge people as I see them, and he's always done very well by me. I've found him to be a decent person. So yeah, so like that's kind of it. Like it's mad. Like I got a bunch of hate for that, and I was like, I guess it's just like at the end of the day, it's the same as if I was coaching. Like to me, I see it as similar to if I'm coaching like a Jake Paul or something. Like he's a very controversial figure.
to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, like I personally find him to be, he's a good guy. He's one of the lads in the room. Um, and I'm not going to say I agree with everything he says or all his viewpoints, but I'm sure you and me can have that fashion of disagreement. So I do MMA. I'm an MMA coach, and I kind of like I leave it at that. Like everybody in the room, if we want to, can find things to disagree about. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you came into Fight Zone at 12 o'clock any day, came to the upstairs mat, you'll like it's funny, you'll find like the weirdest like cross section of the world and the population.
It's the same at our
Um,
gym.
yeah, I think it often is,
Like,
isn't it? You get kind of odd bods from all over the shop, and all just there to just have fun together and punch each other.
like
Yeah.
you get the rough kids who would like you would never see them like grappling with like the Muslims because you'd assume like these
Yeah,
rough kids are from like the racist backgrounds and the Muslims
yeah,
won't like them, but then you get on the mats and they're just training
yeah,
partners. It's like
yeah.
all
That's
left at the
class.
door.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's
But
not even left. I think like once they do it and once they get into it, then it's like it gets left behind in their past as well. Um, it's one of those ones I feel like, especially nowadays, society's so
political.
kind of segregated by the internet. And I think like having forums where you just come together and interact with people in different cultures and different backgrounds. And yeah, we're just a good group, mostly lads. We got a few girls, of people who just train together, that we share the love for something and we work together and just have fun every day, and it's like I personally think, all people are the same, like as a general, and there's always the outliers, the bad people, but it doesn't matter whether you're, white, black, brown, Muslim, Christian, whatever. Like good people and bad people are bad people, and you soon find it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does
Good.
he still come to the gym?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's there regularly. He's hoping to fight again. I can't remember what he said. Possibly July, I think it was. I forget the exact date.
Yeah. Is there anything different about how you have to coach people when they start at like an older age compared to like a teenager?
Yes and no. Like I say, he has been training a while. He's been training a lot longer than I think people realize. He was predominantly grappling before in jiu-jitsu. Um, but in all honesty, the principles are the same. But it's just realizing people's limitations. Like if you watch his fight, like he was against a journeyman, but a journeyman who came to fight, not a journeyman who came to fall over.
Yeah.
It was a real fight. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't a staged fight. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want some sort of weird, I punch you once and you fall over, which is such a problematic part of UK MMA. And at the end, like his performance in the fight was actually like probably some of the best I've seen him. He really put things together. And
The
considering
team's
he's
so
a
good.
guy who's his guy is he had a grappling background. His background was from jiu-jitsu. He trained quite a few years in jiu-jitsu. And yeah, his striking was all right. His movement was all right. Like he's not a guy who's trying to be a UFC champion. And we're kind of like I'm preparing him to defend himself as best he can and do damage, score points, get you takedowns, just the same as everyone else. But obviously, like his body can't take the same hammering
Yeah.
as some of the guys who are a bit younger and a bit more conditioned.
Yeah, but just speaking on that, you said about the journeymen on the regional scene and the people who just go down. How often would you say it is that these regional scene fights are rigged, in your opinion?
I don't think they're ever rigged. I don't think rigged is the thing. I just think it's that. Well, is boxing rigged?
Yes.
Padded. Yeah,
Well,
yes.
so no, there's two different words. Padded and rigged are two different words.
Boxing is both, but I don't think
Yeah.
MMA is
I'm not saying
rigged.
there's not rigged fights, but when you say, "Oh, well," you can bet on those fights. You go on
Yeah,
Paddy Power or Sky Bet. You can bet on whoever like someone like Pat Brown. You can bet on Pat Brown,
Yeah.
Olympian, versus Terry Norris, who's 2 wins and 13 losses.
Yeah.
You can
yeah,
bet on that, and it's not a rigged fight, but it's a development fight.
Yeah.
And the problem I think UK MMA has with the journeyman is that there isn't a good culture of journeyman because there's kind of a culture of like, if you're not a winner, you're a loser sort of thing. Like it used to be when I was younger, and this is a conversation I had. It's a while back, but with Phil DeFries. When I first went pro, or it might have even just been before, the old Fighters Only mag used to publish a top 20 of every division,
Yeah.
and there were 20 legit heavyweights. And maybe some of the guys at the bottom were say 6 and 5, but there were 20 guys who could show up and win fights. And all the guys in the top 10, top 15, all had decent positive winning records. And the weird thing is now, I would say we have less legit heavyweights. There's none of the kind of boxing journeymen, like I've won 8 and I've lost 7. There's not many of those guys about. Whereas we obviously at the very top, we've got some amazing fighters now. We've got Tom, we've got Mick Parkin, we've got Mario, there's Lou Sutherland, there's Abraham Babley, I've got Shark. There's Pavel Delidko. There's loads of good guys.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like that British level and sort of tester fighters. There's not that many of them there. And I kind of understand why, because there's no money at all in it. There is, even for a journeyman in boxing, there's not much, but there is some money. You can make a few grand, a few grand to fight.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because, like I said, there used to be a bunch of, 18-stone doormen who wanted to test themselves, wanted to do a bit of jits, a bit of boxing, and snatch them up on a Saturday night before work. And there's kind of not that. So now I just feel like the journeymen seem to be people who are like, to a certain extent, being taken advantage of. So I don't know. It's difficult. I also don't love, I don't know if you know, that Tapology actively takes those, will take the records down of
Yes.
people.
I've
And I
heard a bit
don't love,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't love that either. Because who are Tapology to start being the arbiters of whoever's? Just because we don't have commissions here doesn't mean that they should have that right. Because they're just guys with a website. They're you or me. Oh, I don't like that fight. I do like that fight. It's sometimes
I do
like
agree with
someone sold
you.
200 tickets and their opponent pulls out and they need someone to step in. And, Eric the alcoholic is the only guy. And I'm not even saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It would be good to have people there. But, you can either have a promoter lose money on his show and then the fighter doesn't get paid and this and that, or you can give somebody 500 quid, £1,000, and they can turn up and lose the fight, but we keep the ball rolling as such. I don't know. It's difficult because I don't know the answer, because I think one of the problems with MMA is in boxing, a skilled amateur who's maybe unable to sell tickets, but knows their trade, is able to defend themselves fairly effectively, and not take huge trauma and damage. Whereas in MMA, it's just harder to defend yourself if you're not, competent, and it's like those small gloves are very unforgiving. The cuts are bad. The damage can be really bad. And I think it's like, what's the motivation to not fall over?
Yeah.
You kind of hear about the old Tyson opponents. They used to get paid by the round and stuff. So they give them fiscal motivation to, stay up and you will get more money, which, to me makes perfect sense. But I don't know. It's not an easy question to ask and to answer. But there definitely is a problem there, unfortunately.
Tom, sorry, Stuart, what we've got here, did you watch UFC London?
I did.
What did you make of it? Obviously, it was a bit of a tough night for the Brits, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those ones. I don't know. The unfortunate thing was it kind of had that classic thing where it looked like it was going to be such a fun card.
Yeah.
And it just was a bit of a letdown. I don't know. I think that kind of sums it up, doesn't it, really? Not only with the results, but some of the performances were just a bit lackluster.
I agree.
Of some of the, some people didn't come to fight, and some people, sometimes, A plus B equals a really crappy fight. Sorry, I've got to get ready to go out. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like some people came out looking good. I thought Nathaniel Wood looked great.
Yeah,
Um, and I think he's on a hot streak at the moment.
I think he looked phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he looked really good. But it was just a shame. It felt like to me, it felt like there was a point where Morgan Charrier kind of like he wasn't trying to win anymore. And I understand that.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I mean, it was a rough first round for him, wasn't it? Getting dropped and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I do get it, but it's like sometimes it can be difficult if you're Nathaniel, it can be difficult to get your work finished there, sort of thing. But like he looked really good. I'm trying to think. My mind is blanking now.
what
I
about
think
Leon? What about Leon?
yeah, Leon. I don't know. Like I love like kind of Leon. I started at a similar time, and our gyms were sort of like sister gyms. So I've known Leon for a long, long time. And I like to think in a parallel universe, Leon's having my career and I'm having his. um, no, it's a shame though. What I've sort of said to a few people is like maybe it's the matchups, and maybe he's had a lot of good wins, and you zig instead of zagging sort of thing. But at Leon's level, if you get 1% worse, you're no longer the UFC champion. Now you're number 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like it could be as little as 1%. Those guys are so close and competitive in that sort of level of environment that it's like small differences make all the difference in the world. And then nothing to take away from Sean Brady. Sean Brady looked amazing.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Plenty of people have tried, taking Leon down and giving him problems. He is a very, very good grappler, very underrated grappler, very underrated wrestler, and obviously his striking has always been good. But he just looked, he looked a little bit off his game, and whether that's like unfortunately down to a bad night, maybe a bit of nerves, your first fight after a loss, or maybe he's getting to an age where he's getting a little bit older. I don't know, but it's hard to say. Time will tell. But that said, like he's to me he's. Would you say him or Bisping? He's certainly one of the top 2 most successful British fighters ever. He's like inspired a whole generation. So even if this is towards his swan song, then he's still done more than most like any 5 of us will ever do probably. So yeah, so it's not the end of the world for him. I think he can still sleep easy. Although he obviously, like as a competitor, he's gonna want those wins.
All right. Well, we'll let you get away because you can see that you need to
Sorry, I
leave
literally
now.
just checked on.
It's all right.
I've
It's
got
all right,
3
mate.
minutes.
Yeah, it's all right. Oh wait, you've got 3 minutes.
I got 3 minutes.
Three
Sorry, my
minutes.
bad.
3 minutes. Go
minutes.
on. Just quickly.
Speed questions, speed round.
Right, speed round. Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler. Give us your rundown.
Paddy Pimblett
Michael Chandler.
probably knocks him out or submits him.
You think?
All right.
Yes, I got faith. Can't knock out a Scouser.
All right. Now blind rank these 5 UFC heavyweights. I'm gonna give you a name. 1 best, 5 worst. Mick Parkin.
4,
Tom Aspinall.
1,
Cyril Gahn.
3,
Mario Pinto.
2,
John Jones.
5.
All right. All right.
Ah,
All right. Well, thanks for your time anyways. Good luck with
yeah,
Alan.
thank you very much.